All right, y'all. Good morning. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying your Sunday morning. Hopefully, everything is well. I just woke up maybe about 30 minutes ago, and I wanted to talk about this really quick. I know everybody is a little disappointed about what's going on with Georgia Southern, and to an extent, the Atlanta Falcons. Which I'm not going to get into the Falcons right now, but I really want to talk about Georgia Southern because of what happened against JMU and what possibly could happen going forward. Now. I'm one of the type of people that like to be completely fair. I want to be totally honest. I try to keep it balanced. I am not one of these people that are raw for Coach Clay Helton, and I'm also not, all this doom and gloom about the opposite side of the situation where this team is bad and they need to, clear house. I'm not trying to, play either side. And I know people be like, well, you got to pick a side. Well, I'm one of the type of people honestly to just try to be fair and look at everything for what it is because I still believe that this team has the potential to be a really good team and go far. And I know that doesn't sit well with a lot of people, especially after seeing what happened in the last, let's say 4 or 5 games. You won 2 games, and one of the games you probably should have lost, but we managed to lock things down against Jacksonville State. But when you're looking at everything going forward, you're probably scratching your head thinking like, how are we going to navigate through this? We lost our first conference game, and you're looking at the rest of the conference, which is always tough. How we're going to manage to possibly win out? Now, I say win out because I already had this lined up for this to be a 9-3, 10-3 season. I even have it pinned in my on my X account where I feel like this team could go 10-3, possibly 8-4. Is it still possible? Well, looking at JMU and the rest of the Sun Belt, I'm looking at this from a standpoint, well, Georgia Southern can play with anybody else that's on the schedule, and they should be able to win the majority of the games left. Can they win all of them? I'm hoping that they can, but to be honest, I can probably see at least maybe 1 or 2 more losses, and that doesn't bode well for the team because I really wanted this team to be a 2 to 3 loss team, maybe 4, and that's pushing it. So I'm looking at it from a standpoint, well, look, we have Coach Clay Helton, and we're probably going to have him for at least another year after this, and I'm just going to look at it from a glass half full perspective to where I feel like this team can still achieve what they want. Some things obviously going to have to fall into place that are outside of their control, but I do believe that if they can go out there and just put their best foot forward, they should be able to win the rest of these games because I do believe that they're better than pretty much every other team that's on the rest of the schedule. Now, a lot of people are talking about Old Dominion. Old Dominion is probably going to be a team that could beat us just like JMU did. And I'm not going to sit here and say like not going to be the case. I believe JMU and Old Dominion are probably like the best 2 teams that are in the East right now. And with the advantage that we have playing at Paulson Stadium, I think we could probably sneak one out there, and that will be huge. And I'm still going to lean on that. Now, do I think that this team needs a lot of work? Absolutely. Now, I know the people have probably already said that already. This team needs a lot of work. You're delusional. You don't know what you're talking about. And I acknowledge that. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say that this cannot be done. The team is not where it needs to be, but the season is not lost. Now, maybe in a couple of games, especially these next 2 games, I'll probably be looking at it from a different tune. But right now, you still got games to play. You still have, 7 more games to play. If you can win 6 of those 7 games, you're probably in a good space collectively as far as the season. Will it be an underachievement season? Yes, because I wanted this team to be a double-digit win team, and you just have the opportunity right now to do so. So I just feel like this defense is just going to have to get better. The offense is going to have to get better. It just seems like everything all the way around just has to get better. Now, I will also say this. I think JMU really made Georgia Southern look bad, just like how USC made Georgia Southern look bad. Just like the second half of Fresno State, they made Georgia Southern look bad. Now, there's some, we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit when we played against Maine. That pick 6 looked crazy. And to an extent, you can even look at Jacksonville State. That was more of a shootout, but the defense could have been locking some things down to make it look better. So, we basically played, out of the 3 of the 5 games, we've played somewhat, even if you want to count Fresno State, we've played better opponents, teams that were literally like just better than us. And I think, like for me, like I said, if you look on my X account, the pinned comment, I knew that those teams were better than us. Even with Fresno State, the Fugazi thing that they did when they played against Kansas, I really thought more that we had a shot against them at the time. But on paper, even prior to the season starting, I knew that the Fresno State and the USC game, I kind of knew that those are losses. If they put a better fight against Kansas, I wouldn't even have that in the conversation of us beating them. So when you look at those two games and you turn around and you look at JMU, when we knew how tough it is to play at JMU, I knew that, look, we're going to walk away at least at 2-3 at some point, and then we can make a run. Now, is that still possible? I absolutely think it is. And if you lose these next two games, or one of these two games, you lose against Southern Miss at home or Georgia State at home, all bets are off at that point. And I feel that really Coach Clay Helton probably needs to lose his job at that point. I mean, there's no way around it. I don't see you taking that far of a step back where you went through a gauntlet and I won't say you necessarily survived the gauntlet because you didn't beat JMU, but you just can't lose two games at home or one of these two games at home, especially to Georgia State. That right there, that right there is a fireable offense. I can honestly say that will be that there will be no reconciliation after that. It's a wrap after that. But with that being said, I think these next two games are springboards to them to actually make a run. I do believe that. I just don't believe that this team is overtly horrible. I just think that you just play better opponents, and to an extent, you just really never got your feet under you throughout this entire season. The defense, when you look at that now, the defense themselves, that they're not playing well. They're not playing well at all. That you look at the defense, and these guys absolutely need to get it together, because I don't care who you're playing. When you give up 100 yards consistently to third string running backs or even second string running backs, you're going to need some help in that department. Now, I do think the secondary is still doing okay. I think the secondary is fine. That front seven needs some help. I think that they need to do some things that really solidify the rest of the defense, because that's the liability. On offense, I'm not going to say anything is necessarily wrong with the offense. I truly believe that when you play against other opponents like a JMU, or when you play against teams like USC, you're going to have those situations to where, hey, you're just going to get beat, especially in those environments. You flip the situation, they play at home, they may fare a little bit better. You just went to at least 2 out of the 5 places, two out of the 3 places you played on the road, of very hostile environments. I don't count Fresno State as a hostile environment, but it's still a tough place to play. And we held up our end of the bargain fairly well until the defense fell apart. But when you go into USC, I mean, who's winning at USC? I mean, I think, did Illinois, did they just win? Or they was at home? Yeah, but, who's winning at USC like that? Like, nobody won at JMU, like, I ain't gonna say virtually nobody, but really nobody won at JMU in years, in almost a decade. So I knew that these games were going to be what it was. This is going to be, I truly say this, and I'm going to say this right now. This is going to be the test on what this team is really about once you start getting into deep into conference play. You already know what it was against JMU. This is going to show you if this team is really going to lay down, and it's going to be a team that just cannot make it. Because they have every opportunity to play teams that are much favorable to them, and they're going to play their games at home. And even the away games they're pretty much winnable. I mean, you're playing against Arkansas State, they just lost. You're playing against App State on the road. I mean, you see how well they're playing, and you playing Marshall. These are 3 teams that are just not there. On the road, at home, you got Southern Miss, you have Georgia State, you have ODU, and I can't remember the other game you have, but you have those games at home. And if we're going to rely and we're going to toot our horn about how well Paulson is, how well it is to play in Paulson, and how difficult for opponents to play at Paulson, you're going to have a situation where we should at least win those games. So when you have you basically have a fairly easy schedule. So this is why I think that this team can win the rest of their games. I looked at the schedule from the beginning and I was like, okay, those first two games and that JMU games are going to be a problem. And for some reason, I always feel like Marshall is a game that's going to be tough to play. But I think we can win those games. ODU is obviously going to be a problem, but I'm going to rely on the power of Paulson to win that game. So, yeah, look, I could be called delusional. I could be called crazy. I could be called any of these things. That is fine. But I'm going to ride with this team until the wheels fall off. And what I see in front of us, I see in front of us an opportunity to go at least 6-1 at the very least, and make a case that, hey, we deserve to be in a bowl game and bring home a trophy. And I think that is a fair assessment looking at the schedule. I know the team has not played the best, and I know the team has not been doing everything they can to win certain games. Sometimes the defense just look absolutely horrendous. But I think when you played these type of teams that you went up against, those teams was just flat out better than us from the beginning. And I think we all knew that to an extent. I just think that we do have expectations that are up here, and it's okay to have those expectations. But in reality, this team is like down here, and I think we all just have to realize that that's what it is. So living in the reality of it, I can see us winning the rest of our games. And for us to have two home games, that'll be a really good start to make a run. You don't want to try to make a run on the road or whatever the case may be. You got two good home games where you can make things happen, walk away out of this thing at least 5-3, and then you're talking about bowl eligibility at that point. And then look, you're at 5-3 with 5 more games to play. I mean, how can you not win a bowl game there? And then you can easily win 3 out of those 5 games. I mean, you kind of see what I'm saying? We have the ability to do something here, even though if it's not the level that we want it to be. In reality, it's probably going to be right here, and hopefully, things are working in our favor to be in other positions. So that's the way I look at it. This team is just not as great as we thought it was. I don't think it's a bad team, but I do think that this team went up against some very good opponents, and it showed. And I just think at the end of the day, now with that out of the way, you take your licks, you do this, that, and third, and I think this team can go a little bit further than we think they are this year, because I think the rest of the schedule is actually pretty solid, and it favors them very well. But we'll see. November 22nd, we're going to be playing ODU, and we'll see how that plays. But I think the rest of the schedule is very winnable. So y'all let me know what y'all think. I am going to go out and get me some fresh air for this amazing Sunday. As far as the Falcons go, I may watch them on my phone. The Falcons better win against the Commanders. They don't have Jaden Daniels or Terry McLaurin. There's no excuse to lose to them without their star players. But that's a whole nother subject for another day. I'm going to be out of here. All right, y'all, I'm out. Peace.